Hi, my name is Gibson, and I'm the owner and founder of the Personal Development School. This is your daily breakthrough video, and today I want to talk a little bit about the second of 3 reasons that we can feel depression or experience feelings of depression. So in the first video, like the number 1 of 3 reasons that we discussed, I talked a lot about how essentially beliefs being activated, core limiting beliefs like I am unloved, I am not good enough, I am unlikable, I am not important, I don't matter, like all these core beliefs that we pick up in childhood produce patterns of thought. And these beliefs and thoughts being activated, patterns of thinking like I'm not good looking enough, I'm not smart enough, I'm not, all related to I'm not enough is the core belief, for example. Or if you have a core belief, people don't like me, I am unlikable, oh, look, those people are judging me, those people are talking about me, nobody's going to want to be my friend, I'm going to struggle or be bullied in the workplace. So those patterns of beliefs and thoughts being sort of joined together and being activated actually produce emotional responses, which are made up of neurochemical reactions. So if we have painful thoughts and beliefs, of course, we have chemical imbalances that are circulating in our brain at given periods of time, especially if there's an imbalance of positive to negative core beliefs, thus positive to negative patterns of thought and emotion. So we talked a lot about that in video number 1. If you are not really, if that sounded like a lot of really condensed information that doesn't make sense in a short period of time, I highly suggest you go back and check out that video. Because it's pretty comprehensive, and it'll just talk about how this is working and what you can do about it. I'm also going to make a full video at the end of this 3-part series around depression that talks about some tools and strategies and things you can use. I also have an amazing course with extremely comprehensive content and exercises, a workbook, everything that will be launching in August, and I highly recommend checking that out. Because we really, really don't need to stay in a space of depression. It's one thing if we go through grieving experiences, and that's normal if we lose somebody we love or care about. It's another thing if we have some adjustment periods and some challenging times after a divorce or a big separation. Like, it's normal to have periods of grief in our life, but out of those periods of grief, we don't need to feel like we're in immense depression, and we definitely don't need to develop some kind of depressive disorder because of those experiences or other experiences in our life. So really, it's about like the meaning we give to experiences, even more so than the experience itself. So I highly recommend, if you're experiencing depression, you don't know why, you're not sure of its roots, go back and check out the first video, and it'll give you a little bit of insight there. And feel free to take a course that will really dig into the roots of all these pieces. Second of 3 main reasons that we experience depression is that we are out of alignment with our core identity needs. So we all have a subconscious blueprint, okay? And the subconscious blueprint has to do with our core beliefs, and it has to do with our identity needs. So we have 6 basic human needs, which Tony Robbins discusses this, if you're probably familiar, hopefully. Love and connection, certainty, uncertainty, which is really like security, safety, stability, and like freedom, exploration, variety, novelty. So love and connection, certainty, uncertainty, growth, contribution, and significance. And people ask me, what does significance mean? A lot? Sort of like meaning, feeling important, feeling like you have a meaningful life or purpose. It can also be the need for attention, power, control, those sorts of things as well. So those are our 6 basic human needs. And based on our experiences in very early childhood, where we have a void of these needs, we basically, our subconscious mind goes into like overdrive to get these needs met. So for example, if I'm wired for these needs, if I come into the world and I'm wired for love and connection, and let's say I have love and connection for the first few years of my life, but then I have a big loss in my life, like one of my parents or something like that, my brain is going to like really register that void of this need that was so important to me, and then it's going to kind of go into like hyper overdrive to get that need met, and it's going to kind of bump that need up the hierarchy of our 6 basic human needs and value it more. So wherever there's a void, our brain tries to put extra emphasis or basically value something more relative to that void. And part of the reason for this is because our brain has something called a homeostatic impulse, where it's always kind of seeking like balance and equilibrium. So, and I won't get into all that, but going back to the needs. So 6 basic human needs, Wherever there's a void, our brain values this need even more. And out of this forms our identity needs. So I won't go into this in great detail, but just to give you a really simplified example, based on the strategies we use to get our 6 basic human needs met and the positive versus negative associations in relation to each of those 6 basic human needs, we develop our identity needs. So that sounds like a lot of really intense information, I'm sure. I'm just going to break it down with an example, okay? Let's say I have a high need for love and connection, and the strategy that my brain uses, and the strategy that my brain uses to get its need met for love and connection is to try to derive it from friendships and from social relationships and from romantic relationships. And let's say it's not getting a lot of positive associations in there. Let's say because of other circumstances, I'm a little bit quiet, a little bit socially awkward. I don't do well with people. I don't connect well with people. Let's pretend that that's the case. Well, my brain might go, okay, well, there's the most positive associations to getting this need met through family. And so I might, talk a lot about my family, my parents, my mom, my father. If this is a man, this is a perfect example, that man might go on to be a family man in his later adult life. Like when he does settle down and have kids, he really connects with his family, and he really identifies with his family and the connection between them. And so he might have the most positive associations about the strategy of getting his needs met through family, because that's where he's had positive reinforcement and safety and connection. And he might really want more friendships or more, just positive social community relationships. But if he's getting more negative associations there than positive because he feels rejected often or uncomfortable or things like that, doesn't know how to connect socially as much, then obviously he's going to sort of push that off, and he's going to identify himself as a family man. So that's a really good example of how one of our 6 basic human needs, based on positive versus negative associations to the strategy or the method or form we get the needs met through, become part of our identity. Another one is somebody might have a high need for significance because they didn't feel very seen and heard and made to feel important as a child. And so that might be something that really drives them in their adult life, really feeds them. They might get that significance because they do well in a career and they drive their significance there, or from a sport, or whatever it might be, the form that they're getting their needs met through. Wherever they have the most positive reinforcement and the least negative, they'll latch onto that form, and then they'll become the athlete, and that could be an identity need. Or they could become, have a high need for career growth and development, because that's where they get their significance from. So I hope that makes sense. And I won't explain that in too much further detail. Out of those needs, we actually have tertiary needs, which are our moment-to-moment needs, to feel supported, validated, seen, connected. And there's a PDF on the Personal Development School website with all of our tertiary needs. So I'm not going to get into that. I have a whole course coming out on your needs in depth, how to find your needs, how to express your needs, how to get your needs met, really going through this in a comprehensive way, because our needs also deeply impact our life purpose and what we're doing here, and they deeply impact our relationships and our ability to stay connected and committed and keep growing with our partners. So it's really important to know your needs in detail and to understand this part of your needs, and also they impact your emotional state as much as anything. So again, that's why we're talking about depression here. So on this note, your brain will also, just as a little interesting example, your brain will also get its needs met in the present, in imagination in the future, and in memory of the past. So your brain, let's say you need to feel love and connection, and you've just moved to a new city away from family and friends, and you need love and connection, you're not getting it met. You might notice that you're nostalgically reminiscing about old memories with friends and family, because your brain's still getting some of its emotional needs met just through the imagination or visualization of these memories. Same thing in the future, imagining that you'll be closer to your partner, the anxious attachment individual or even fearful avoidant can go through this quite a bit. So through those imaginations, we can also get a bit of our emotional needs met. So so how does this all relate to depression? Because I've explained the needs, but how does it relate to depression? So this relates to depression because if you are out of alignment with your needs and your identity needs especially, you are going to feel disempowered dramatically on the emotional scale. So let's say, for example, You have a really high need for love and connection. Let's say your strategy or identity need to get love and connection became friends, family, community, romantic relationships, and pets. And then let's say you went away to a new country, and you're just getting settled and you're missing your friends and family. It's going to impact your emotional state. Like, this is such an inherent intrinsic need that you're wired for. And if you move to a new country for a job, you're working 80-hour weeks, and you are not getting a really important need met that's very personal to you, your subconscious is going to be trying to alert you through eliciting negative emotion. So your subconscious is going to be like screaming out to you saying, oh my gosh, we're in pain, we're hurt, because it's trying to bring you back to yourself to recognize that you have unmet needs so that you can go heal these voids and fix them and solve the problem and be happier. So all of your negative emotions are there literally to help you. They're literally there to redirect you and point you back to yourself. I would almost say that this is kind of like a spur of the moment thing. I haven't like actually plotted this out and done numbers or created a statistic, but I would say the most people I see struggling with like chronic depression are people with a really high need for love and connection that's not being met because they have a lot of limiting beliefs about themselves socially, emotionally, all that kind of stuff. So they're like depriving themselves of getting that need met because they'd rather stay in their comfort zone and their introversion or things like that. And this is a really important place to break out of. So our needs and beliefs are working together at all times to impact our behavior and our emotions. So if you have a need that's super inherent and important to you, and you're perpetually and consistently like ignoring it, trying to repress it, not getting it met, you are definitely going to be feeling that emotionally. And those emotions, again, are just a call back to you to let you know, hey, there are some deeply unmet needs here. And if we're feeling, if a need is unmet perpetually for long periods of time, it creates these patterns of negative emotion, patterns of negative thought, patterns of negative behavior. And of course, all these patterns become like a fairly consistent emotional state that then we identify as depression. And so keep in mind, like I've seen a lot of people with extreme depression, who've been on antidepressants for 15, 20 years, and you're not always depressed. You have moments where you laugh. You have little moments where you're okay or you're happy, or you have a good morning or a good hour, or you can laugh and actually like find humor in comedy television or things like that. So, it's, and that's again, because in those moments we're getting these like snippets of our needs being met. And so all of those things where you find traces or moments of happiness are equally valuable to the negative emotions that are still there, always trying to point you in the right direction. So if you're struggling from that perspective, you want to really get clear on like, what are my needs? What's important to me? Go through those 6 basic human needs. Go through the different forms that you get those needs met in. Go through how important each of those needs is to you and how happy your life would be if you were more fulfilled in each of those places. And then create strategies to start getting those needs met. And the more removed we get from the form that we're trying to get the needs met through, the less strong the less strong the like hit would be of getting that need met. So for example, let's say I have a high need for love and connection. Let's pretend I'm the person that moved to the new country. I'm away from everybody and I'm working 80-hour work weeks. I could call a friend on the phone and talk for 2 hours and really catch up and get that dose of that need being met in a bit of my spare time and get that kind of like high or that good feeling again and feel like I'm like, like the sense of relief a little bit for a couple days. But if I'm trying to get that need met through like watching a reality television show where it's not a two-way interaction and there's not like the emotional piece, I'm just like watching somebody's life, it's a much smaller dose of getting that need met. And I'll see a lot of people who have, again, this like really high need for something like love and connection, try to get that need met in those like very indirect forms. And it takes a lot more of that indirect form to actually get the need met. I hope that makes sense. But for example, if it would take 2 hours on the phone to make you feel like that need is met for the next 3 or 4 days, and you feel connected and rooted and back like to yourself again, the 2 hours on the phone might equal like 16 hours of reality television. And then there's other drawbacks with that too, right? So we want to go directly to the source of the need as much as possible. Okay. Again, it's like we'd rather, if the need is for love and connection, if we're just getting connection, we'd rather go for love. right? So just to be really clear about the impact of the intensity and the directness of how we're getting the need met, the strategy that we're using. Now, one other thing I'll say, and I'll try not to go into it too much in this video specifically, but you really need to know your subconscious blueprint. You really need to know what your basic human needs are, and you really need to know like what your strategy is to get these needs met and your identity needs. Because if you don't, it seriously is like trying to go through life and it's like driving from here to like the other end of the country you live in and having no map. Like it's hard to know, how I'm going to make decisions. You have to be making decisions in alignment with your subconscious blueprint, with your subconscious needs. If you're just making decisions based on like emotional feelings at any given time, those emotional feelings are the result of lots of other things that are going on in the background in your subconscious. But if you can say, for example, like somebody says, hey, come and go on vacation with me for 3 weeks, and they convince you and they pressure you, and let's say you have like one of your highest needs is to save money and to feel like you're financially secure, and then you go on vacation because you give in to sort of like the pressure, or you try to tell yourself that you should because you haven't been. You might go spend a lot of money. It might be like very incongruent with what you truly need and want, and you might come back and then feel angry and resentful and guilty and hostile. Like, we need to know our needs so we can make proper and effective decisions, okay? So, and of course, so that we can be in control of our emotional state. So I hope this was helpful. I could go on about this topic for a very long time. There's a lot of other really important information in here, but just to sort of summarize in a sentence here, one of the second major reasons that we can experience feelings of depression or be actually depressed is because we are deeply out of alignment with needs that are very inherent in our subconscious mind, and our subconscious keeps eliciting emotion to try to guide us back to letting us know something is not quite right, something is out of balance or wrong, so that we can actually create and facilitate change. I said like one sentence and then I babbled on for a little while there. Thank you so much for watching. If you're getting a lot of value out of these videos, please like them, share them, subscribe to our channel, and please feel free to sign up for the Emotional Mastery and Attachment course if you're interested in doing like a lot of intensive work in a live group. It closes, it's on the Personal Development School website, and it closes for sign up in the next few days. So yeah, thank you for watching.